You don't look anxious. That's the first thing people get wrong about you. You show up. You smile at the right moments. You listen more than you speak. You carry responsibilities without complaint. From the outside, you seem calm, reliable, grounded. But inside, your body is never truly at rest. Your thoughts loop quietly. Your chest tightens for no obvious reason. Your nervous system stays alert long after the danger has passed. You are anxious, but not loudly. You suffer, but privately. And here is the paradox that defines your life. The very traits that once kept you safe are now the ones slowly exhausting you. Your silence protected you. Your self-control prevented conflict. Your emotional restraint made you easier to keep, harder to abandon. But now, that same silence isolates you. That same restraint disconnects you. That same self-control leaves you unseen, even by the people closest to you. You don't ask for help, not because you don't need it, but because you learned that needing was dangerous. This video is not about weakness, it's about adaptation. And the dark truth is this: you didn't become this way by accident. You became this way because it worked. Once. To understand anxious people who suffer in silence, we need to talk about hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is a nervous system state where the body stays on constant alert, scanning for emotional shifts, potential rejection, or subtle danger. It's not fear in the traditional sense. It's anticipation, like living next to a door that might slam at any moment, even when it hasn't slammed in years. Many silent sufferers develop this state early in life, not always through obvious trauma, but through emotional unpredictability. When care was inconsistent, when moods changed without warning, when love felt conditional. The child learns a quiet rule. If I stay aware, stay small, stay controlled, I can prevent pain. Over time, this becomes internalized anxiety, anxiety that no longer needs an external threat to exist. Neurologically, this reshapes the brain. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes hypersensitive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and self-monitoring, stays overactive. You don't feel anxious, you function anxious. This is why rest feels uncomfortable, why silence feels loud, why calm feels unfamiliar. Psychologists sometimes call this learned self-containment, where emotional expression is replaced by internal management. You don't explode, you implode. The emotional cost of silent anxiety is not panic, it's grief, invisible grief. Grief for the self that never felt safe enough to be messy. Grief for the words that stayed unspoken. Grief for the needs that learned to disappear before they caused trouble. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." For anxious people who suffer in silence, the terror isn't self-acceptance, it's exposure. Exposure feels like risk. Vulnerability feels like instability. Needing feels like weakness, even when logically you know it isn't. So you sacrifice authenticity for belonging. You become agreeable instead of honest, capable instead of supported, strong instead of connected. And the cruel irony? The more composed you appear, the less people notice your pain. The less they notice, the more alone you feel. The more alone you feel, the more you retreat inward. A quiet cycle of self-erasure. Even joy becomes complicated. Relaxation feels undeserved. Celebration feels temporary, because something always feels like it might go wrong. You're not afraid of life collapsing. You're afraid of being seen before it does. As adults, this pattern doesn't disappear. It simply becomes more sophisticated. You might recognize yourself here. You might. Stay in relationships where your needs are unmet because asking feels like burdening. Apologize instinctively, even when you've done nothing wrong. Feel responsible for other people's emotions and guilty when they're upset. Over-prepare, overthink, overfunction, just to feel temporarily safe. Struggle with boundaries, not because you lack strength, but because conflict feels dangerous. Feel emotionally exhausted, even when life looks fine on paper. These are not personality traits. They are coping strategies. They were never meant to define your identity, only to protect it. Healing begins not by fixing yourself, but by witnessing the pattern without judgment. Instead of saying, "What's wrong with me?" you ask, "What did this behavior once protect me from?" This shift matters because self-gaslighting, telling yourself you're overreacting or too sensitive, only reinforces the wound. Unlearning silent anxiety starts with allowing the truth. You adapted brilliantly to an environment that required emotional restraint, but you no longer live there. Healing for silent anxiety is not about becoming louder. It's about becoming softer. Softer with your nervous system, softer with your expectations, softer with the parts of you that learned survival before safety. Practices like inner child reparenting help here, learning to offer yourself the reassurance you once needed from others. Shadow work helps too, not to fix your anxiety, but to understand it, to listen to what it has been trying to say. Rest becomes a practice, boundaries become a language, expression becomes an experiment, not a demand. You learn that being seen does not automatically lead to loss. That asking does not always lead to rejection. That safety can be built, not just monitored. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are." You were never meant to disappear quietly. Your anxiety was never a flaw. It was a signal, a message from a system that learned to survive too early, too alone. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not too much. You are someone whose nervous system learned responsibility before rest and is now learning how to come home. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who suffers quietly. And if you want to continue this journey of understanding the unseen parts of the mind, subscribe, because healing is not about being fixed. It's about becoming whole.